So last day we had done the extrinsic receptor pathway for apoptosis, and I am just doing a recapitulation of the same. In the extrinsic pathway, there are death receptors present on the plasma membrane. Normally, the death receptors are found as monomers. The moment a cell containing a death ligand moves towards the receptor trimerization occurs. If we look into the death receptors, on the cytoplasmic side of death receptors, there are death domains. In case of extrinsic pathway, in the cytoplasm, we have the adapter proteins. Now, these adapter proteins have two important conserved sequences in their structure. One is the presence of a death domain by which they interact with the receptors, and the other is the presence of a death effector domain by which they interact with the catalytic enzymes, the caspases. Now, the moment that trimerization occurs, the death domains of the receptors are activated, and by these death domains, the adapters are recruited. Once the adapters are recruited to the cytoplasmic end of the receptors, they then now recruit the initiator procaspase, which is in the inactive form. The procaspase moves to the adapter, where initially they are found as monomers. When they move to the adapter, they are found as dimers. They dimerize, they are activated, proteolytically cleaved to produce the active initiator caspase. They now further downstream activate the executioner caspases. The executioner caspases then further downstream move into the nucleoplasm. They cleave the ICAD from the caspase activated DNAs, and then the CAD performs its variety of functions, one being the cleavage of DNA into 180 base pairs. So this was the extrinsic pathway. Now at the end of the extrinsic pathway, I would like to point out two things. One is that there are certain receptors in the cytoplasm known as decoy receptors. Now, these decoy receptors are very similar to the death receptors, but they do not have the death domain. Cancer cells are seen to express these decoy receptors. So, as I said, since there are certain decoy receptors present in the cell, by the presence of these decoy receptors, it is obvious that they do not have any death domain. So even if the receptor trimerizes by the action of a ligand, since they do not have a death domain on the cytoplasmic side, they are not able to attract the adapter protein. As a result, this cascade does not work there. So decoy receptors means false receptors or pseudo receptors. That is, they are actually making the lymphocyte which has come to inflict death upon this cell. It is actually playing with that lymphocyte. It is trimerizing on the signaling of the death ligand, but since they do not have the death domain, the extrinsic pathway cannot be activated. So this is one category of receptors observed in certain cells, which gives a sort of protection to the cancer cells. And so as I was saying, the active set of receptors are decoy receptors. We get it in certain cells. But another modulation is also seen in certain apoptotic cells, that is the presence of flip. Decoy receptors is a sort of protection given to cells so that a cell does not die untimely due to the expression of a ligand. If suddenly for a normal cell, a ligand moves forward and then binds with the death receptors, the cell was not supposed to die, the pathway starts. So at times the decoy receptors binds to the ligands and prevents that sudden onset of apoptosis. There is another group of proteins that also prevent a sudden onset of apoptosis, that is the flip protein. C-flip, it is a variant of caspase 8. It is very similar in structure to procaspase 8. And if you look into the picture, it also has a death effector domain just like caspase 8. The difference between C-flip and procaspase 8 is that in case of C-flip, there is no catalytic domains available here. Here we do not have any catalytic domains like the one we have in caspase 8. If you remember, in caspase 8, there were two catalytic domains, P20 and P10. But in C-flip, we do not have catalytic domains. So in the cytoplasm, usually we get the presence of procaspase 8 proteins and also C-flip. At times it might happen that accidentally a ligand has bound with a receptor. So depending on the cellular microenvironment, the C-flip then binds with the adapter proteins. Now C-flip are able to bind with the adapter proteins. Since the C-flip are now bound at the adapter sites, procaspase 8 activation is blocked. So via this process, at times, the cell ensures that automatic apoptosis is not activated. Automatic apoptosis is not activated. So C-flip competes with procaspase 8, binds with the adapter. Since they do not have any catalytic subunit, no extrinsic pathway. So this was the extrinsic pathway. Now we move on to another pathway, which is important for another important pathway for cellular death. Now, if you look into this picture, you can see that this is the extrinsic pathway. Procaspase 8 activated to caspase 8. Caspase 8 is cleaved. Active caspase 8 then activates caspase 3 and apoptosis. But what happens? The amount of caspase 3 at times produced here, it is not enough to induce complete apoptosis. The amount might be quite small and is not enough to induce apoptosis. In that case, what the cell feels is that the mitochondria needs to be brought into action. So at that time, signals may travel from the extrinsic pathway towards the mitochondria. Now, before moving into mitochondria, let us discuss about the main proteins that actually control the mitochondrial or the intrinsic pathway. In the previous day, we had discussed about the proteins that actually control the extrinsic pathway, and they were caspases. If I go back to that slide for a particular purpose, we had discussed caspase 8. Caspase 10 is very similar to caspase 8. Both caspase 8 and caspase 10 have a sequence known as death effector domain. But in case of caspase 9 and caspase 2, if you look into the picture, it is very clear that in the prodomain region, the sequences found in case of caspase 9 and caspase 2 is not similar to the sequences found in caspase 8 and 10. So look at the sequence. It is written as CARD, C-A-R-D, caspase activity recruitment domain. So the caspases, let me reframe my line. The initiator caspases of the intracellular pathway or the intrinsic pathway have a prodomain which contains a sequence known as CARD, C-A-R-D, caspase activity recruitment domain. Whilst the caspases of the extrinsic pathway has the sequence DED. We saw the importance of DED in the extrinsic pathway. We'll come to the importance of CARD a bit later on. First, let us now move on to the proteins that actually control the intrinsic pathway. The proteins that actually control the intrinsic pathway belong to a group family that is known as the BCL2 family of proteins. If I look into this picture, it's written A, B, C. The BCL2 proteins can be divided into three basic categories. The first category is pro-survival or anti-apoptotic. That is, this group of proteins, if they are expressed in a high quantity in the cytoplasm, the signal in the cytoplasm will be read as survival. The last group, let's come to this group. No, let's move on to the B group. In the B group, this group of proteins, as you can see, is written as pro-apoptotic or anti-survival. That means if the cytoplasm is expressing this kind of proteins, then we have to read that the signal here is death. Now, between life and death, there is a regulator part. So these are the pro-survival part. These are the death part. And now we have a regulator part. This also belongs to the family BCL2 family of proteins. They actually help in regulating or moving the ratio from survival to death or from death to survival. So again, I'm repeating, the anti-apoptotic protein of this family are known as protectors of a cell. This group of proteins, the pro-apoptotic proteins, are known as the killers of the cell. And this group of proteins are known as the regulators of the cell. They actually control the cytoplasmic microenvironment. And it is their movement, this group of proteins, it is their movement which determines whether the survival proteins will be functional or whether the death proteins will be functional. So if we look into this particular picture, you can see BH3 or the regulators are sitting here. So they regulate whether the survival proteins will produce a high expression or whether a death proteins will produce a high expression. If the regulation is favor of the survival proteins, then initiator caspases are blocked. If the regulation is in favor of the death proteins, then the initiator caspase is activated and simultaneously the executioner caspases are activated. If we look into the picture, you can see the survival proteins have 4 conserved domains. The death proteins have 3 conserved domains and the regulators have only 1 conserved domain, that is the BH3. So you can well assume that these proteins interact with one another by the BH3 domain. So these regulators are also otherwise named as the BH3 proteins. So as I was saying, so if these are the 3 basic proteins that actually controls how the internal microenvironment will behave, let's see how they interact. Let us imagine this is a normal cell. And let us give names to these proteins. This is BID, which is a regulatory member of the BCL2 family. This is BAX, the blue one is BAX. And no, sorry, the blue one is BCL2, anti-apoptotic or pro-survival. And the yellow one is pro-apoptotic or BAX. So let us give names. This is, the green one is BID, a regulatory member. The blue one is BCL2, a survival member. And the yellow one is BAX, which is a apoptotic member. In the normal cell, this is the position in which they are present in the cytoplasm. The moment there is an apoptotic stimuli, it can come from the extrinsic pathway, it can come from P53, it can come from any of the survival signal pathway. The moment there is an apoptotic stimuli, the BH3 proteins expression increases. The expression of the BH3 proteins are heightened. How does this happen? Let's look here. These are the common traditional BH3 proteins. We have BIM, which is a BH3 protein and a regulator. This is BMF, again a BH3 protein and a regulator. This is BAD, a BH3 protein and a regulator. This is BID, a BH3 protein and a regulator. As you can see, these regulators are kept inactive in a normal cell, a normal healthy cell. BIM is sequestered to the microtubules. The word sequestered means attached to the microtubules so that it is not free or activated. BMF is sequestered to the actin cytoskeleton. BMF is associated with the cytoskeleton, so even though it is present in the cytoplasm, it is inactive. BAD is phosphorylated and bound to a scaffold protein known as 14-3-3. It remains in the cytoplasm, but it is phosphorylated, and in this manner it is inactivated and bound to the 14-3-3 scaffold protein. BID is present in the cytoplasm in an inactive form. It is only active when it is cleaved, and to cleave BID we need caspase 8. So for at least for BID, it is ensured that the extrinsic pathway has already started. We are already now having active caspase 8 in the cytoplasm. The active caspase 8 is now, it has now cleaved BID. The active caspase 8 has now cleaved BID, and then only BID can be active. So depending on the various death signals, they become activated. So if there is a death signal, the microtubules will dissociate, BIM activated. Death signal, the actin cytoskeleton will be dissociated, BMF activated. If there's a death signal from the AKT signaling pathway, the BAD will be dephosphorylated, BAD will be activated. If there is a death signal from the extrinsic pathway, caspase 8 will cleave BID to produce active BID. So as you can see, so the green one, which are the regulators, they are only activated when a cellular death signal is perceived. Once the cellular death signal is perceived and they are activated, what do? By their BH3 domain, they interact with the pro-survival member. So as we have given names, so if somehow BID is activated, BID now interacts by its BH3 domain with the BCL2 protein. As a result of this interaction, BAX is automatically free. BAX normally present as monomers. So when BAX is free, we are getting monomers of free BAX. The moment BAX is free, they then form small oligomers, and they small hole-like, see, this is an oligomeric formation, and once they form these oligomers, they insert themselves into the outer mitochondrial membrane, creating pores. The moment they create pores on the outer mitochondrial membrane, the mitochondrial outer membrane potential occurs. That is, the membrane undergoes a change in the positive negative ion interaction. As a result of this, MOMP, mitochondrial outer membrane permeabilization, cytochrome C leaks out. So as you can see, this was another example. So this is a BIM. As I said, BIM is kept inactivated, or BAD is kept inactivated by any kind of death signal. BIM is activated. BIM will move on to sequester BCL2 from BAX. BAX is free. BAX then forms monomers on the mitochondrial membrane. So this is how the oligomerization of the pro-apoptotic membrane actually creates pores on the mitochondria, resulting in the leakage of cytochrome C. The leakage of cytochrome C is a marker for, it's a hallmark for the final death verdict of a cell. Mind it, BAX or the BCL2 family of protein acts at the cytoplasmic level. They do not have any function, or they do not translocate to the nucleoplasm. They can only interact with the outer mitochondrial membrane, creating pores on the outer mitochondrial membrane, so that once BAX is activated, the cytochrome C leaking is equivalent to the collapse of the mitochondria, and hence the further intracellular death pathway or the intrinsic death pathway is further activated.